Yeah. So without further ado, did you guys want to jump in? Yndon, did you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the 43 and the 44 and maybe how they even can be woven together?
Absolutely. I just moved my desk today and I'm sitting here at the window and noticing just the light kind of dancing on the clouds and on the trees outside and on my face. And just really appreciating the way that when I close my eyes, that the light continues to dance and continues to weave a message. And really been sitting with not only the way that the transits follow each other in a non-numerical kind of sequence, but also looking at the quality of how also when they are in sequence, like we're in this transit, we have the 43 and the 44 together. And I really see how deafness is something that can precede interference, particularly when we're not listening to our inner truth. I mean, I think a big part of what human design really offers us is a gateway and a speed dial to our direct inner authority. So I see how that process of really being deaf to what's true for us, the wisdom, the insight that comes through us, is something that causes interference when working with others. And so it moves from that kind of individual interference pattern to a greater interference pattern at the level of the collective. So just really seeing how those shadows are feeding each other. And then also how like insight is, in my personal experience, like insight is a big part of teamwork. I think the really exciting part of working with others is actually being able to share our insights together and also to like all become eyes, to all become the eyes of the inner looking glass, to where we all begin to see what is being created in the space between us. So there's that piece where at an individual level, our insight is something that feeds the greater teamwork. And I see how Synarchy also in that way is a group epiphany. It is the epiphany of the borders kind of dissolving and us becoming one being, and also hearing the same wisdom of source channeling through all of us. You know, a thing about deafness that really really stands out to me, that's really just, I think, really profound, is the intimacy between hearing and sight, and how the gift is in sight, which for me is about the inner sight. And at the shadow level, it's a disconnection from the inner ear. You know, we always talk about the third eye, which I personally think is the first eye before the extra eyes come on board. It's that first eye and the pineal and the inner, almost see like a crystal ball. You know, it's the crystal ball of our higher consciousness, that we can actually look within and scry the intelligence of our inner knowing. And the same thing is true for the inner ear, which for me is the first ear. You know, it's like, if you can't hear yourself first, then how can you hear yourself in contrast and relationship to everything outside of you? So I just think there's something really beautiful and intimate about that once there's a breakthrough in the ability to hear ourselves and to go within the silence of the mind and within the central channel, that then we can begin to see within ourselves. Yeah, and that's something that really connects me back to my body. It helps me to actually access this process in my body. So today I could feel the heat almost like right where the cribriform is, which is where like the nasal cavity meets the blood-brain barrier. And that's kind of how I feel where the 43 sits, where the inner ear is, kind of there at the corpus callosum. And I was just feeling a lot of heat in that part of my body today, and like a denseness. And so what was really helpful for me today was just to create some space and some silence and to look within, and spent some time here at the desk today just allowing the light to dance on my eyes, but looking within rather than looking externally. And that really helped. It really helped me hear myself. That's my insight for now.
Thank you for sharing your insight. I love what you said about, I mean, I love a couple things that you said, but something that I felt really called to respond to was the corpus callosum, and feeling that I can feel like when you made note of it and pointed to it, I can almost feel it. And like, we have two sides of our brain, right? We have the left and right hemisphere, and they're needing to communicate with each other. They're needing to listen to each other. If you're right brain dominant, then you're still lacking in the other side. And if you're left brain dominant and more logical, then you're lacking in that creative side. And I think that it is about the teamwork between both hemispheres of the brain. And that's why we have, I think that, I mean, I could be wrong if I'm thinking that that's the corpus callosum. Is it the corpus callosum, or is that something else that I'm thinking about that connects the two hemispheres of the brain?
So the corpus callosum is actually what connects the hemispheric information.
Yeah. So I feel like we need to have that communication. It's an important aspect of ourselves. And also, if we can go within and find that balance between the two, and maybe you're very good at one area, but you're not at the other, you can still strengthen it, just like how you show up in a team. It's like there needs to be communication, and your strength isn't going to be the same as someone else's strength, but you need to communicate and come together to share, like you said, the insight, so that you can work together as a team and get that team epiphany versus the individual epiphany that tends to come from that 43-23, where it's like you're a genius or you're a freak. But if you can explain your genius in, with clarity, then that delivery to the other person is what's going to be like, oh yeah, you are a genius, and not everyone's going to resonate with your epiphany, but when you're responding correctly, because this is a projected channel, when you're responding correctly, it's your people who you're responding to, so they should in turn view you as a genius, or I mean, we shouldn't really get caught up in if you're viewed as a genius or a freak, but I digress. I just thought that was cool that you brought in the corpus callosum.
Yeah, I always try to so I have a medical astrology background. And so the piece around the physiology of the keys, the aminos, there's also cell salts that correlate to the zodiac signs. I get really nerdy about the medical astrology side of things. So I'm always trying to build a bridge back to the anatomy. And the corpus callosum is the thing that actually braids the hemispheric wisdom together. And it's the same thing in the chart, that central channel in the Kabbalah is called the Shushumna, and it's the place where the male and the female pillars meet together. It's where logic and abstract have a bridge. And something I've always found really fascinating is that the logic and the abstract circuits actually crisscross in the ajna. So they braid through the 43. I see them braiding right there at the 43 and the 24. So there's that kind of exchange and that crossover. And to me, that represents the corpus callosum. And that's alpha brainwave activity. That's actually balancing both hemispheres. And so there's a lot of wisdom that can come from that. And I think in teamwork, that can be really powerful, because some of us are very logical, others of us are very abstract. But when we can share what we're seeing externally about where we're headed on a logical scale, and also where we've been from the abstract side, then there's so much wisdom, because it's okay, what have we learned from where we've been, and how does that apply to where we're going, and vice versa. And that all meets in the center there. And that's what I think brings structure. Therefore, the 43-23 being the channel of structuring, it just kind of really stands out and resonates to me as that truth within it. And that's a breakthrough that I found in my own personal dive into this, because I think it's, for me, one of the most exciting channels, because there's only 3 channels in the wheel that are channeled by a programming partner relationship. So it really stands out for me.
What are the other, I mean, I know the 37 and the 40, but what's the other one? I don't remember.
So there's the 37-40, the 43-23, and I'm having a freak.
I don't know.
having a freak moment and spacing out right now. Oh,
maybe it'll come.
The 34-20.
Okay. Cool. Well, Bella, do you have anything to respond to or add to this?
I'm thinking insight epiphany isn't safe. this is a Scorpio gate, and we are still in this Scorpio season that's really, really deep waters, that is like inside of the emotion, inside of the depth. And the way that the 43 works, it's individual, and it's often before its time. So when you guys are saying genius or freak, it's because it has the insight before anybody else has had it. So when you bring something into form that hasn't been into form before, it's not safe. It's a transformational process. And also when we look at the Codon Ring, it's the Codon Ring of Destiny. And in the Codon Ring of Destiny, where we have the 43 and the 34, we have this process of involution. It's coming into form. And then we have the evolution in the integration circuitry, where we have the 34. And if we think about the two gifts here, we have inner strength in the 34, and we have insight in the 43. So really what kind of drives human evolution and making the we could say human life more efficient, which is the 43, the two gifts that drive that, our evolution, our efficiency, is insight and inner strength. There is something like super powerful for me in this Codon Ring, in those two keys, and in actually, I would say that this Codon Ring takes a little bit more to actually understand it, because some of the Codon Rings, like the Codon Ring of seeking, there is pressure from the root, and we want to see it. Like this one, I feel like it takes a little bit more to really see those triangle of involution and of evolution. And this goes together with when you were speaking about the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, the logical, the abstract, the feminine, the masculine, spirit, evolution, soul, involution. And it's also what I feel when we speak about synarchy, the way that we want to come together and actually tickle both sides of the brain. And we want to tickle the feminine, the masculine, the soul, and the spirit, the form, and the consciousness evolving. So for me, I feel in this Codon Ring, there is a lot of beauty, a lot of power. And I see this Merkaba again, that we see in the Pearl sequence that hasn't really been released to everybody yet, but it is that process of involution, evolution. We can see it in Gene Key 22 and Gene Key 55 as well. So I feel it's exciting to today look at it. And I don't remember in the charts that we did choose for today if we have the 34, but in those that have the 34, I kind of want to look at this Codon Ring and this process of involution, evolution within one person, within one blueprint.
Yep,
And,
me too.
Just to be kind of freakish, I think what's beautiful about that Codon Ring is that they're mirrors of each other. 34 and 43 being mirrors. And because the 3420 and the 4323 actually are those programming partner channels, they actually happen to connect through the throat. So there's just something that I'm sensing there that feels really, really beautiful as well.
Yeah, that's super funny. Like I had never thought about that. It's both the 34 and the 20 are programming partners and harmonic gates, and then the same with the 2343. That's
Yeah, it's almost like, because the 43 and the 34 are mirrors of each other, it's like if I even just explore the mirroring effect of those channels, it's like it's almost like the 34 is also like an inner ear, but it's the inner ear of the belly. It's like that creative ear that wants to be in the present moment with the 20, which is also very similar to like the 23 is that place where the wisdom of that 43 is trying to come through in communication and trying to simplify and cut away like what's unnecessary to get to the root of expressing it. So in a way, I see they kind of mirror different process of one of them is very mental and the other one's very physical.
Yeah.
Very creative. So
that's super cool. The body in the now and the mind in the now. They're just all meeting in the throat.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Before we dive into chart readings too, I want to point out something else that's kind of cool. Yndon, you're 6'2", and Bella is a 4'6", and I'm a 5'1", so I'm kind of sandwiched in between, and I've kind of been the MC for a couple of these calls, and I think that the reason that the 5'1" has the leadership or the impact is because it's meant, once you get the attention of the masses of people, you're meant to share the stage with the people of the future, the people that have the 6 lines, like Yndon, you have it in your mind and Bella has it in her body. And I've always said that I seem to attract 4/6s and 6/2s. I have an interesting relationship with 6/2s though, because if they're too arrogant for me, I'm like, peace out. I'm not going to send anyone your way. But I do have a few that I really enjoy. You're included in Don. But I find it really curious and fascinating that even in our geometry, in our synergy, I'm kind of drawn in to kind of bring the attention to, you know, someone on this side of me and someone on the other side of me. You know, it's like you guys are sandwiching me. I'm like, everybody look at these. Because the 6 can't be like, hey, everybody listen to me. I'm a role model. I think the 5 has to be like, look at these role models and what they're doing. You know, you can't necessarily scream from the rooftops and be like, everybody look at me. You got to come down. Come to the stage, Bella and Yndon. Funny.
Yeah.
Okay. We ready for, you guys ready to dive into some chart readings?
Do it.
Okay, cool. What everybody is waiting for. Okay. So let's go to the first chart. We have Gregory. Gregory is a 1/4, and he has the Black Panther right here, the Tranquil, the Playmate, and the Game Changer. And you'll see that he has the 44, and he has, where's the 34? And the 34. So those are the ones that he has. He doesn't have the 43, but he does have our 44 and that 34 that we were kind of looking for. So whoever wants to jump in first.
Bella, you want to go?
I mean, this chart was what made us like look one more time, because it has those extra keywords that we don't have when we make the chart on the Jinky website. But we can see that it's made from there, and it has the codon rings, and it has the title of the chapter of the Jinky, and it has some extra like lines between the yellow lines in it and around it between the life's work and the evolution. So, I mean, I think this is really beautiful and really creative. And actually, if somebody is new to the Jinkies, I think it can really help to know, okay, this is my Jupiter, this is my Earth. I just feel it's really valuable. And I don't even know this thing that is like on the bottom. Like, what is that? Is that your life path? I mean, I know mine isn't straight, but this like this looks very interesting. Yeah, so thank you, Greg, for submitting this. I think you said it was Anna Ray or something that has made it. Like, if anybody knows who's made this chart, please let us know so that we can like say how amazed we are by it. So that's enough about the chart. Well, I look here at the body graph and I just see all this activity in the middle of the body graph, like open head and ajna, open root, open solar plexus. We have a lot of that integration circuitry, which is the 34, and then connected to the 57 and the 20. So, and it's a 1/4. That's an interesting profile too. But the first line in the sun and the earth is telling me you're here to go about your own thing. You're here to investigate. You're here to be deeply immersed and not actually available for the other. So when you have 3 channels in the integration circuitry, you have that process that you're immersed in. And I know that you're not so much into the Jinkies and human design, but that you're into astrology. So I feel like this is your process where you are going deep into the numbers and you're seeing the magic of the numbers. There's also something that Ashley and I often speak about, which is the 515, that channel of rhythm. So with the integration circuitry, you being immersed in your own thing, and also this 15-5 channel, like it's your rhythm. I think that people can't really influence you. That's how it looks for me. I also love that you have the 44-26 that we did speak a lot about last time. So when you have a message, when you have investigated something that works, maybe with numerology, and you wanna have that shared with the world, people are gonna listen. You have that whole channel of the transmitter. So never doubt your message. Be empowered. Come out from the basement, out in the world, and tell us about it. What I do think is important, because you are a 1-4 and not a 1-3, means that relationships and trust and friendships are even more important for you. A 1-3, I always say, you have to invite in those win-win relationships in your life and trust them. Well, here with the fourth line in the radiance, in the purpose, there is a longing for that. Like we often say with people that have fourth line in radiance and purpose, your people are more important than your environment. And with the 59 and the 55, it's all about intimacy, transparency, like those really, really beautiful qualities of your relationships. That's going to be so important. I mean, if you don't have people in your life where you have those relationships, you might look at as one of those busy manifesting generators, pure manifesting generators, 30, 34, 20, just running around being busy. But there is, for me, when I look at your chart, and now I'm going a little bit more into the gene keys, I see that 12.5, that purity, that powerful purity of being that you have. I see Cancer in your pearl and your culture. So I believe as a 1-4 with those Cancer gates in your pearl, like I feel like there's a nurturing, there is a softness, there's a friendliness, there is this heart sharing from the fourth line that is there, and that feels important. See if there's anything else. No, I think I want to leave over to you, Yndon. Maybe there's something more, but this is what stands out for me.
Yeah, I think a few things that stood out particularly was you brought up the 5-15, a channeled rhythm, and I noticed that his 5 was sitting in the Neptune positions, which I think can be really interesting, because Neptune can be where some things are veiled and kind of hidden from us that we might not notice about ourselves. So there might be kind of like, it could be in your blind spot a little bit that you do like a daily rhythm, ritual, routine, and flow for your day, your week, your month, each season, and really being connected to the cyclical patterns of nature that can be really supportive for your higher self. I mean, Neptune is the octave of Venus. So there's this access point to the higher self that can really come through when you tap into that thing that can be veiled from you. And so I see that being a big part of particularly connecting to the culture in your pearl sequence, because you have the 15 in your culture, which feels like really fitting as a line 3. The 15 is about the extremes of humanity, and it's also one of the arms of the vessel of love, which is a certain incarnation cross, and it's the love of humanity. It's the love of all the extremes and ways of embodying the identity and the self and the many directions of humanity and the collective. So I see there's and that third line is very adventuresome and wants to experience and experiment. And so I see there's this part of your culture that you provide this space for so many different types of people and circles and identities. And at the core of that, maintaining a connection to your higher self has to do with being anchored into the rhythm of your consistency as well, which is in that Neptune position. So I see this beautiful kind of tension or complementary relationship between really being grounded in you and the way you show up for yourself daily, and still continuing to explore all the other different versions of self while still maintaining a defined identity and direction. And I think that will be something that will help anchor in what I'm seeing in the integration network that isn't present. You have most of the entire network. You have the 57, the 34, and the 20, but you don't have a defined 10, which is the self-love piece. And I can see that consistency to your daily routine and those things in the Neptune position, supporting the self-love journey when you're still experimenting, encountering others. And I think that would really help you stay integrated to your power, really connected to your power, really connected to your intuition, and really connected to your presence. So I really see that being a big part of the journey. The other thing that I think is, really beautiful about this integration piece that you have a first line is that you have the 34-20 as your life's work and your evolution. And so that first line theme is you're really investigating your power. you're really investigating what your power is and how to really be the presence of that majesty. And that's like critical as, in the integration network, it's very much about coming back to the breath and the heartbeat, coming back to you. And I see that being very much supported by that first line quality. Now, what's really interesting that stands out to me about your profile is that you're a bridge profile. And so there's certain profiles that will maintain a certain motivation, which is tied to something beneath the line, something called color. And 1/4s have the motivation of innocence, which is the bridge between all motivations. You could kind of say it's the motivationless motivation, but really it's about maintaining the purity of heart, which I see connected to your vocation with the 12/5. So there's something about like really staying in the purity and the innocence of your being and maintaining that integration. I see that particularly the 5 supporting that, like the daily process of cultivating that purity and that innocence. We're like, all is well, no matter like what's going on. I see that being like a bridge through from the personal level to the external network in that way, and really dovetailing quite nicely with your profile.
Yeah, one last thing. As a first line, your life's working evolution, and also a Aries South node, I feel like it's important for you to really find those allies and have those win-win relationships, and also find and maintain a balance. Your North node is Libra in the 57 and the 48, and the 57 and the 48 is also your Pluto. So there is like a transformational journey, like a hero's journey, possibly in this life, where you're going from being this lone, a little bit like the loner that does it in your own way, to actually come into that beautiful relationship with Libra, with the other, and to feel into your intuition, that there, to feel into your resourcefulness, 57 and 48 in with the other. So that feels, I would love to hear when you're watching this, how that journey from you in your authority to including others, how that looks for you, or if your best allies and friends are numbers. I can see that sometimes, I feel more safe with my numbers. So I wonder for you as a 1/4, and I think it is Cheatham Parkin that says that 1/4s are, sensitive, beautiful souls. They have that harmony between the first and the fourth line, the first of the first hexagram, the first of the lower, the first line of the lower trigram and the first line of the upper trigram, 1 and 4. And there's a resonance there, and there's a sweetness to it.
Thank you so much, Yndon and Bella. And Gregory, we would love to hear your response. We'll tag you on Facebook. I don't believe you're in the Zoom room, but we would love to hear your response. And thank you so much for your submission. Are we ready to move on to the next profile, or is there anything you want to say in the intermission?
The only thing I was feeling about this is that this transit would really beautifully weave together the logic and the abstract that Gregory has in the 47 and the 4 in his ajna. So there could be a lot of insight between the past and future, and like what you've experienced leading up until now and where you feel like you're heading moving forward. So this could be a really good time to just have like a daily meditation practice. Maybe that can be the thing that your 5 can anchor for these 6 days, and maybe even beyond. I feel like there's just a lot of breakthrough and insight waiting for you.
Mm-hmm. Very great. Thank you. Thank you both. All right, moving onward. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Rachel Delaney, she has been in the Unlock Your Design community for as long as it's been alive. So Rachel has the Utarian, which is 19, the Medicine Woman, 33, the Spark, 1, and the Feminine, 2. She's a 5/1 profile, and she happens to have the 43/23 channel and the 44/26. So the whole channels for what's in transit and what we're weaving.
And I know that you loved this chart. It was the first one that you're like, oh, I want to look at this. So why don't you start?
Cool. Yeah, this one really stood out to me because the 4323 is not activated as a programming partner relationship through the sun, earth, or the nodes of the moon. As an example, sun's in 43, the earth's in 23 right now. So it's just, there's only a few channels to do that. There's only 3 of them. So it's just rare to see a 4323 and notice that it's not actually nodal or a sun earth relationship. What I felt was really beautiful about it and very synarchic about it was that it was in your pearl sequence. The 43 happens to be to your design Mars, which is the core wound as well as the vocation. And then you have the pearl in your personality Jupiter. So I just felt that that was like so beautiful because there's this deep like bodily intelligence. There's this like somatic insight that you get in the 43 there. And that leads to an externalization through the personality, but it's not like they're bridging through the same parts of you, right? So there's like this segue between body and mind. So I just really see that really stood out to me because you don't see that often. So I really love that at the deeper level of the one, like you're really going into the inner landscape. So that insight is even like enhanced because it is a self-investigation. You really do have to go within to get those insights and epiphanies. And then like when you can feel that in the body and like where that's moving through your being and subconscious, then there's like this really creative, wild expression of that in the 23 line 3. So there's like a very creative, experimental like discharge of that wisdom that can come through the throat and come through the self-expression of how you show up. So I really felt that really stood out for me right out the gate. And you also have the 50, which is paired with the 44 in the codon group of the Illuminati. So I just love how those also happen to be connected together in definition rather than split apart. And I just love like your chart really drops down the center and then weaves into the 44 quite nicely. I love that your 4323 connects to your 18. So there's like this genius to freak energy, the 4323, but also you have this very creative contribution through the 18, the channel of the creative role model. And that's connected to like your own rhythms. And you're also still a very nurturing, nourishing being with the 2750. That channel I see a lot of healers with, people that are really tuned into their tribe and how to take care of them. And then there's this quality of the 4426, which knows how to like get a message out there about like what people need on the material plane to fulfill their role. So I see that they're like all these channels are working together, particularly if you can get that piece around your own rhythm and your own timing. I can see that really, really like fortifying what it is for you to be a leader as a 5-1. I see that particular piece really anchoring that relationship between you and others. And when you're really like in your core and in your power and in your stability, particularly with the, you have a 1 in the body as a 5-1 profile, also your core being a 43 line 1. I can see that like when you really create that space and that solitude for yourself, then you can like come out of the gate like really powerfully as a leader. And there's just a lot that'll just come through instantly. And you can lead from your center, from the gravity of who you are as that creative role model. Bella, you can go for it. I'm going to keep looking at her.
Yeah, there are so many places that I could go. Well, the first thing I see is that you're also born in 77. So you have the outer planets, the 48 in Pluto, the 5 in Neptune, and then the 44 in Uranus, exactly the way we saw in the other chart. And I almost wanted to add that, but then I know we don't have that much time. So with the 44 in Uranus, I think that there are going to be unexpected things that come to you in relationships. And knowing you're a 5-1, with that also the projection field, I think you're going to have many interesting relationships in your life, and that you can feel them deeply, both because you have the 19 and the 33 as your life's work and your evolution. And there is a lot of sensitivity. There is a lot of being able to take in the other. And that together with the completely open emotional center, where where you are feeling everything. You can feel the turbulence, the dishonor, the weakness, the conflict, the victimization, the reaction, desire. That is those lower frequencies of the emotional center. And possibly in the beginning of your life, that was very overwhelming. And hopefully, the more that you come into that middle pillar that Yndon is speaking about, where you have this beautiful connection, and also the 515 that we spoke about before, that your own natural rhythms, when you come into that, that's when I feel like you can see all that emotion, you can understand all that emotion, but you don't necessarily need to take it on as something is wrong with you, or even like something is wrong with the world. You can more start to see the grace and the beauty of those colors that are there in the human expression. And I think that goes together with you having a 6 line in your attraction, because that's the other part where you attract people and you kind of get to learn in life. Your karma, your dharma has to do with the sphere. And with the 6 line, you're going to be a visionary. You're going to be somebody with high ideals of what's possible in relationships. And also with the 44 3 times in your chart, you have this inherent knowing of everything that's possible in relationship. And I feel as well here with the 6 line, we know that the low frequency is disappointment. So often what life shows you in the beginning and what intimacy shows you in the beginning is not exactly the dream that you have of it. But the most important thing, you have like an exponential activation here of innocence. The 3rd gene key is all about remaining innocent and remaining that child that never loses that innocence. And then in the 6th line, we also have the innocence. So instead of like going into disappointment and judging the world and judging intimacy and judging how messed up, humanity are, Ashley and I, we have a 6th line in the attraction. And, I think we both have come sometimes to that point, like if humanity is like this, I'd rather just not engage, or I don't want to merge with something that is not healthy, something that is not wholesome, something that can't see that we are humans, that we are animals, that we are creators, all in one. The 6th line really has that ability to see everything. So for me, the important thing for you, when I see the open head, the open emotional, and this activation, your attraction, is to remain innocent, to not become cynical. And sometimes there is a little bit of that in the 5-1, but when you can do it with a glint in the eye, with the 5th line and also those 6 lines, it's like you can see it almost like I feel like you have this ability to zoom in and out. And maybe that has to do with as well you having the 1 and the 2. And last time we were speaking about having this kind of hamburger around the universe. Like there is a vastness in what you can see with, and here again the first lines that Yndon was speaking to, the depth of who you are, the depth of your mind, but also the vastness of your being, the vastness of what is possible for humanity. So I would say don't allow your sensitivity and your perception to tell you it's not worth it with humanity. There is just something here that it is worth it. And when you can be that role model with integrity that stands for innocence, that stands for embracing and trusting everything with that 2nd gene in your purpose, that's when you can change the world. And when you can have a spontaneous expression from that place, rooted in that 2nd gene key, that's when we see your pearl. There is so much spontaneous expression. 41, spontaneous insight that comes like a what is it called, like a fire rod, I don't know what it's called, but it just comes down like a lightning. And then the 23 is that translation in simplicity. It's completely spontaneous, something that's never been translated like that before. And then the 8 is your unique style in the moment, the agent for creativity. Like all that is there, but for me it really requires that you embody your 3.6 in the attraction and your 2.1 in the purpose. When that is anchored, when that embrace, that trust, that innocence, that's when really your pearl sequence can express itself in a super, super powerful way and frequency.
Thank you so much, Bella and Yndon. And Rachel, if you have anything to respond, we'd love to hear from you. I believe we tagged you in the Facebook Live post, so love to hear back from you. And thank you so much for your submission. Anything to add or say in the interim of our chart reading? Not necessarily about this chart, but anything else? Or are we good?
feeling good.
Okay. Just wanted to see if there was any spontaneous insight. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is our last chart. And I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but I think it's Sasha. And he has his life's work is the fire starter. We have the water goddess as the evolution, the Black Panther as the radiance, and the tranquil as the purpose sphere. And he is a 6-2 profile. So take it away, you two.
Do you want to start, Yndon, or what feels right here?
Yeah, one of the first things that I'm seeing is particularly the Pearl sequence having the 44 and the 50. So the entire Codon Ring of the Illuminati is complete there in the Pearl sequence. And it's just beautiful to see that they're both activated by the personality and design Jupiters. So I feel like there's like just a lot of expansion, particularly on the material plane for Sasha when it comes to like creating equilibrium in teams. Obviously, that means you're going to encounter these cultures of corruption. You've got that 6th line in your profile. So maybe for the first 30 years of your life, you're maybe going to encounter more of that shadow theme in the world around you that maybe spins you into more of a pessimistic lens of like how well things can work. Maybe you're desiring things to really like be balanced, and you're really wanting the commitment and the devotion of others to really show up in a good, ideal way. And that might be something that you transmute as you move through life and age and become more mature. And like that is the learning grounds upon which you can actually be a voice and a creator of that kind of culture within the network to bring equilibrium, to bring harmony. And really that pearl is coming through with like the codes on teamwork. What does that look like? Because you've gone through the trial and error process. You have a 44 line 3. The third line is going to go through a lot of trial and error. It's going to learn what doesn't work. It's also going to discover some amazing new breakthrough forms and things that have never been tried before, never been experienced before. And I think there'll be a lot of wisdom that comes through you in that way. And so I think you're someone who can really come through and illuminate what is really going to bring balance and order to the field. And I see that being like how you transmute the energy. Your vocation is the 47. So like you're really transforming, the process of how the team implements what it's doing. That line 3 is all about strategy in the Pearl sequence. So like, you're going through all these ways of implementing that you're learning don't quite work, or like don't, they just don't. And from that, there's a lot of wisdom that like you can either oppress that wisdom, or you can feel oppressed by it not working, or you step in and you turn the dark to light, right? And you step in and you transform corruption into harmony. And that is like how you can start really taking that initiative in what you're doing for the collective. And your growth has a lot to do with like really getting down to what is it that you truly desire? What is it that you're truly here to teach others? And your service in that way is to transform how their desires are also corrupting the situation. And so like you are that glue that can be, you're a sin architect. That's your pearl. Your pearl is to bring Synarchy to the whole. And so that's something that you can do in a way that's fresh, because that third line is always going to be wanting that new experience and discovering some next new piece. So I see that being really beautiful way that you can come through and bring your energies to the table. And I would say the thing that also stands out in that is that you have an entirely open heart. So I think like something that you might learn as you deepen into your 6th line wisdom is like, where is it really practical for you to commit your time and energy and resources? How has that 6th line gained its wisdom from what hasn't worked in the past, where you have overcommitted, or like you've been a part of a vision with a team where like maybe the people weren't fully committed to the things that like really they could show up for. You know, we all want to help. We all want to be worthy. We all want to some degree or not, prove that we're there for the team and we're loyal and like, you know, we're ready for the blood, sweat, and tears, you know, to do what we need to do as a tribe to survive in the material plane. I think you're going to gain a lot of wisdom through the arc of your life, learning like where you really can show up and like be that impact and that force and contribute to the tribal circle of like material success and survival in a way that doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like being the martyr, but it's like really where it feels really good for you. So really, I think that's a big piece of wisdom there, because that is going to be the center that you're most directly conditioned by. It's going to be the first center of conditioning when it comes to encountering others in the exchange with teams. So I think there's a process there, also including the ajna and the crown, where like you might need to like surrender the ego's desire to prove that it's more worthy than it already is. And like you already are worthy just by breathing, just by being. You already have so much integrative power. You know, you already are a manifesting generator with full capacity. You have that entire integration circuit. Like you're very robust and like there's a lot of strength in your single definition. So I think like just understanding like that you bring like a huge force of generative creative potential. And so, you know, just like trust in that and don't feel like you need to overdo it just because others maybe want access to that power. Like really trust like your conviction, what really feels good for you. Trust the certainty of that. Trust the inspiration that is your inspiration and be guided by that, which really lights you up. And I think that is the best way to bring harmony to your teams. That's the best way to transmute anything that is oppressing your creative potential, your ambitions, like your intuitive clarity. And I think like just really, really tapping into that and being, you know, being game for whatever comes up and being present for whatever comes up, but really just not forcing it. And know that you already are a force to be reckoned with. Right. So heart of the lion, like, you're the prime species. You know, you don't have to prove that. You don't have to roar. You already are powerful. So there's like a stillness and a presence to that emanates its majesty rather than, you know, has to force it.
Well, I'm nerding out a little bit here. You know, when you have looked at many, many charts, you kind of start to see patterns. And basically, Sasha has his personality is my design, that whole column, because he's born in February 1982 and I'm born in May. So my design date is 1.5 weeks before he was born. So I'm like, these are exactly, everything here is my chart. And of course, that's cool. But, you know, there's just some, well, after a while, I think it all becomes a code and then you can have fun with the code. So what I am seeing from you in this chart, you're a 6-2. And what I feel is that maybe in that 6 line, there is a bit of seriousness. You have that 50 in your culture. There's a responsibility. There's a seriousness. There is a lot on your shoulder. We know that 30 can become, you know, it loses its lightness and it becomes serious in the world. And that's your personality. There is a tendency for your mind to kind of take on some too much responsibility. And together with that open ego center that we're speaking about in Dawn, I think that's even more like proving that you can hold it. And what I see here, and we have in Dawn who's a 6-2, like I see a second line in the attraction, I see a second line in the radiance, I see a second line in the purpose. I feel like there's so much juiciness here. There's so much of coming into that sacral, to that water, to that flow, to that merging with the other, the dance with the other, the flow with life, the naturalness, the effortlessness. That feels super, super, super important. You know, you have a third line in your pearl. It's about celebration. And when we look at the 30 and the 29 at a deeper level, we have tantric communion. that's what we have in here. The 30 is part of the codon ring of purification, and this purification through relationship, so that we can experience deeper. And then the 29 is that devotion where the lover and the beloved becomes one, and that is very much what I see as well in the second line of the radiance and the purpose. And that 28.2, it says, I dare to go anywhere in relationship. I dare. And I feel like by doing that, that's when you're coming in and resolving in the vocation and the EQ, or the core and the EQ, which is the Mars, that tend to be immature and create havoc in our lives. So when you dare to go that deeply into communion, that deeply into the sacral movement of life, I think that's when the unease and the oppression that you may feel, and that you probably see in your family and ancestors, that's when that can be transmuted. And that 47 has a Virgo energy, a priestess energy. I don't know, I think that Richard calls Virgo the priestess, and then the green man. So I guess I'll call you the green man here in that 47. And the 57 is a deep intuition. And here we see another chart again with a lot of integration circuitry, actually all the integration circuitry. So always trusting your intuition, your instincts, your senses, coming back to the senses, coming back to the body, coming back to the effortless, the flow, the communion, and not be so much in that higher perspective mind where you take on a lot of responsibility. That would be my advice to you. And then leave out that 44.3, the dynamism of how celebration looks with others. That's your essence. That's what you're here to do. And I do feel a little bit like I'm speaking to myself because we have that mirror thing in our charts. But and then you have 3 receptive arrows around your head in your variable orientation. So again, it's receiving life, receiving celebration, receiving the dynamism. There is not so damn much that you need to do, nothing to prove with that completely open ego that I share with you. So yeah, I resonate with your chart, and I would love to hear how it is to live with my design as your personality. Thank you, Sasha.
Well, Sasha happens to be in the Zoom room, so
oh my God,
if we want him to respond, he can. If
I
you
would
want
love to hear something from Sasha.
Okay, should I allow him to talk or promote him to panelist?
Yeah, I mean, either. I mean, I don't know if I don't want to just put him on stage if he doesn't want to be on stage, but if you want to be here with us, that would be cool. But at least allowed to talk.
Okay. Yes. Sasha, if you want to respond, you can. I gave you permission to talk. Hopefully it works. Oh, I think he's on. He's coming on. There we go. Hi.
Exactly, very funny, like Chip and Dale.
We can't. Yeah, there's there's interference. The 44 is coming in. There's interference with the audio, so we can't really hear you. Oh, I would have loved to hear from him.
The green man is coming through, and JLo is writing like aliens in the chat. Hi, Sasha. If it doesn't work, it's okay. But if you want to, yeah, I saw that you were already, writing in the chat. It seemed like it resonated somehow with you.
Yeah.
True 6-line alien.
Oh, I love it. Well, yeah, thank you so much for being in the Zoom room and live to watch this live, because I think that it's amazing to be together at the same time and same moment instead of you watching the replay. So I love that you are here, and you are here to experience the chart reading. So he just said, wow, thank you all so much. If he writes anything else. He says, I was here since 5 minutes. That's something crazy. Well, you were meant to be here.
Something I'm just seeing, I don't know if you guys know this notice at the bottom of the 64 keys chart, but his design on is 23. So the Chiron's actually bridging the Mercury design there and actually creating the channel of structuring, which in my own personal studies on Chiron is the rainbow bridge. And it's actually the bridge between Saturn and Uranus. So it's actually like this expansion piece that like bridges that inner world to that much, much greater outer world. And so I just see that being like the gift of what will break you through into that expansion into the 34 that you're carrying in the Uranus there, and also bridging like the clarity that you have in the 57, the Saturn, you know, on the design side. It's like the unease gets stirred up and then there's this intuitive insight, but then maybe the struggle is like that insight that you're getting internally, like how do I speak that? How do I communicate that? How do I just share this, the depth of that? So I with that Chiron position, I think like that could be like a source of a much deeper collective wound, particularly like in the collective experiences with the teamwork. I could see that really, really playing into the Pearl in that way. So like really being able to find the simplicity of what you want to share when there's really big insights coming through. Really just see that being that wound that when healed is a bridge. You know, it's a bridge to greater expansion and a bridge to others.
Yeah, and even the personality Chiron, the 2.6, about really coming into the form and the embrace of the form. So there's also a beautiful bridge there, we could say, together with the second line that you have in the attraction and the radiance and the purpose. So yeah, I do resonate with always looking at Chiron. I don't fill it in the chart necessarily, but see it as that, yeah, that extra card, that extra energy that can help you bridge and become whole in yourself. So I think it's, yeah, I agree that to have it is super, super valuable to know your Chiron and to be able to work with it and to see your own hero's journey, how it unfolds for you in your life, and then the bigger rings that also, like you were saying, Yndon, as is like for the lineage, for the collective on a bigger scale.
Yeah, it's like the birth canal. See the Chiron being like the birth canal, where like the wound, like quantum healed, and then there's just a massive breakthrough.
All right.
Oh, he wants to join again. Do you want to try again, Sasha?
Yeah, let me see if I can just invite him to talk. There we go. Okay,
Hello?
you're ready. Oh,
Yeah!
hello. You came through.
So crazy. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great, great. Oh, thank you so much. It's so unbelievable. I'm here in Germany. It's 1 a.m. in the morning, and I want to go to bed, and was in my Gmail account, and there was this Zoom session. I clicked in, and my name was there. So crazy.
You know, that 57 that you have, I think it's in your EQ, you know, that intuition, the powerful intuition of like, this is where I need to be. That's
Yes, I love it, especially when it's more in the gift side or in the city side, when I'm really in the flow with it and trust in it, and then the magic happens. Really. Especially the last days was really unbelievable with this 61-24, and then with what you said with the 43 and 23. I have so much insight, so much synchronicities for my work, so much downloads, and it's wonderful. I'm sorry because I didn't know what you have spoke before that, before I came in, but I will look the recording after that.
You came in at the perfect time for when you needed it, and then you'll be able to watch it in the morning when you're when you're fresh and rested, unless you want to go into it now and then sleep on and see what kind of insights come in the dream world.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for hopping on and then also being able to share your voice with us. I think that's amazing and beautiful.
Yeah.
And now you have that definition of the 4323 channel.
Yeah, and this especially it's with the 23. What you said, Clark, it's your name. With the 23 with the Chiron, before a few years ago, I didn't speak over 20 years. Yeah, very little bit speaking out my voice, and it's coming more and more, and yeah, a big transforming.
Beautiful. That's amazing to hear that, like, you're experiencing that breakthrough. And I could see this time of year being something that is like, every time we come around that spiral this time of year, like, this is a big moment of breakthrough for you, where like your insights are going to bubble through, they're going to come up and out. And that could just be a beautiful part of like just healing that part of you. Chiron being the wound healer, you know, it can be a deep wound, but it's a wound that once we heal, then we can actually support others to heal in that.
Oh, I'm very touched with what you said. This because I feel that the time right now is where this transformation is happening and the healing is happening, and yeah, I'm very touched by it. Thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you all, especially Bella and Ashley, for your work with your with your 44s and what you're doing for the community. It's so unbelievable and so touching, and wow, this is wonderful work, and it's a blessing that you're here, and yeah, we are here together, and very touched. And all the best and blessings for you for the next time and for the next transformations that is coming for us all. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So much gratitude. So glad you were here. Right. Well, thank you so much for everyone who joined us inside the Zoom room and then also on Facebook and YouTube. I believe we're streaming there as well, maybe, but it will be up on YouTube nonetheless. And we will keep you posted for the next session. And thank you so much, Bella, for your time, Yndon, for your time, both of you for your insights into these chart readings. And if you want to leave us with anything, if you want to have any closing words, the mic is open for you as well before we sign off. Silence is
I don't have anything to respond to. I always can.
Yeah, thank you. We'll have some more announcements too regarding Synarchy, and just keep your eyes peeled and remember what I said about your charts and the resolution. And thank you so much for your uniqueness, for being here, for showing up as yourself and diving into this journey of uncovering who you are and expressing that in the world, because we need more of your spontaneous, unique expression, and the world is ready and willing to hear what you have to share. So let's all get out there. Thank you for being part of our team. Bye, everyone.